I think I learned exactly how the fall of man occurred in the Garden of Eden. Adam and Eve were in the Garden of Eden, and Adam said one day, wow, Eve, here we are at one with nature, at one with God. We'll never age, we'll never die. And all our dreams come true the instant that we have them. And Eve said, yeah, it's just not enough, is
it? No, that's not funny.
I was just waiting for more.
Well, that was kind of his point.
Oh, God.
That's kind of what he was saying.
I mean,
You women are never happy.
Always just waiting for more.
So listen. So
no.
Before the show, I'm taking my wife through that video of the woman complaining, which I think we're going to discuss on Locals tonight. Like, I got a few things. I actually got a lot planned for tonight.
Yay.
We're gonna. Well, I forgot. You know what? I forgot to send you. I got to send it to you now, actually. So we let me send them to you now, so we have them.
Yes, Margot. It is just going to be the two of us. Nick is suffering from allergies right now.
Okay. So we're gonna do Blessed Carlo Acutis.
Oh, thanks, Laura.
Oh, is it really our 3-year anniversary?
Yeah, the first trivia episode was on April 1st, 2022.
That is crazy, man. Holy cow.
It is crazy.
So we're gonna do Carlo Acutis. Then I want to discuss that video of that woman complaining about like her marriage. She married her high school sweetheart.
I haven't watched that yet. I don't watch the videos you send me because you tell me not to.
Yeah, it's very interesting to hear a woman complain about her husband not being able to read her mind and things like that. So I'm taking Nicole through that
I hear
video.
that all the time.
I'm taking Nicole through that video, and then that led to some other discussions about somebody else, what somebody else is enduring publicly right now, and basically my wife was like, please don't give any more marriage advice. Don't discuss our marriage. And I'm like, okay, that's what we're going to have to discuss tonight on Locals. So we're going to talk about that on Locals tonight. No, so what I did was I pulled 3 clips from 3 different movies on Jesus. One is The Chosen, one is Jesus of Nazareth, and one is the Gospel of John, where Desmond from Lost plays Jesus. And they're all the same scene. It's Jesus in the temple. And I want to show you the 3 different versions. And I want to show you, because I watched The Chosen because my in-laws are watching it. And I have a very nuanced take on it. Like, I don't just hate it like you do. There are some very
No. Do you want me to read the text from you earlier after you watched it?
I mean, I'm going to get to it. I'm going to say what I have to say. The more I watch it, there's... That's right, exactly. Yo, you want to know what's funny? She's like, she watched one of our shows once, and then we went to Locals, and she's like, I wanted to finish watching it. It just cut off and went to Locals. I'm like, as it should be, woman. You cannot watch that portion.
You don't watch it for free, even if you are my wife.
So I'm going to take you guys through what my issue with the Jesus presented in The Chosen is, because I couldn't quite figure it out. Like, there's some very beautiful, moving scenes in that show where, like, even when Rob, remember when we reviewed that episode with Peter, where his wife had the miscarriage, you had experience with miscarriage, and like, it really did drum up emotion.
Okay,
When Peter
I know what I said at the time, but right now I'm going to say, no, it sucks at all points.
You admitted that, like, it choked you up because it was a very powerful scene. And there are those scenes. No, we're going to
get to it, Molly. The thumbnail isn't meaningless.
You guys will just got to enjoy.
I'm sick of hearing about thumbnails. So sick of it.
Yeah, Matt Frag gave you a bit of a chastisement for your thumbnails, Rob. Rob, the thing is, all you do is gossip about everybody, and it's not charitable, and you may lose your soul because you keep talking about other people, and it's not right. And I'm just saying, Rob disappeared. Like, he literally disappeared. He's gone. That's it. He's leaving everything on me. This isn't good. Nah, we'll get to it. We'll just tease it. I part of me like agrees with Matt on that point, but the other part of me is just like, dude, like, everybody stop complaining. Oh, they talked about me. They said something mean about me. We're going to show you guys an example of somebody saying something very mean about me, and I don't care. Get an example of somebody saying something very mean about me, and it's like, oh no, somebody said something mean about me. I don't really care.
It made my afternoon so much.
It really, we'll tell that whole story of how Rob found that. It's actually pretty funny. All right, so let's get to the Recusen ad. Oh, before that, even Thursday night's members only show. So if you are not a YouTube member, join the YouTube members program or locals. One of the two. That is where.
If you feel the need to have your comment shown on screen, YouTube membership is the way to go.
And it's only so, like, if you don't want to spring for the $5 on locals, it's $3 a month, and then we're doing trivia Thursday night.
But if you only are in locals or only in YouTube membership, you don't get the locals
show. Correct. Now, sometimes, like last episode, we just did the whole thing on the member side, so you guys got lucky and you didn't have to. Right. It wasn't a locals portion you missed.
Try to do that, but if the subject demands we leave YouTube, then so be it.
Yeah. So look, and so now this also, Molly just gifted 5 memberships. Anybody that's not a member, you can get those memberships. I think there's a way to do it. You got to click on something or something. I don't know. You got to click on just like allowing yourself to receive those. So those 5 memberships will get gifted to the people that are in that thing. So, but Thursday we're doing trivia. We're having a new crusade on Majorian's Musings, Anthony Campbell, Crash Cannon. And we're going to discuss handing the trivia baton off to those guys. So it's going to be the last Avoiding Babylon trivia show. Like, I don't want to hear it about trivia ever again after this. It
helped us launch our channel. So we're going to pass it on to help the next group launch theirs.
Correct. Like, I think it's a really good way to get your name out there, to ask guests to come on. It's like you doing Catholic trivia. It's non-controversial. You could probably get some bigger names. It's a way to raise your profile. I'm hoping these guys get the chance that we did with trivia. We'll even probably go on for an episode here and there and be guests on it.
Yeah. And I will absolutely win no matter what.
Yeah, I probably won't, but that's all right. I don't really care about winning. I care about making jokes. I'll probably be funny on it. That's the best I can offer. So that's the plan Thursday. We're going to do trivia on the members show, and then we'll either stay on members side or we'll go over to locals and we'll just talk to those guys about what their plans are, how we think they should host it, we'll get into the nitty gritty. Plus you guys will meet the young guys that are coming up in the church and that are going to try and be the outsiders to the Catholic content creation. Like, we're outsiders. We're like garage band Catholics at this point because nobody wants to talk to us.
Probably because we've ripped on all of them at this point.
I mean, we keep making thumbnails provoking all of them. I can't imagine why they don't want to talk to us.
Look, that's not what that thumbnail was about yesterday, okay?
I don't know why you went with it, because there was nobody discussed that was in the thumbnail.
That was the point. The point was to show like that.
Yes, but
that
all
media
of those guys,
personalities can just clash sometimes.
All of those guys saw that thumbnail and thought it was about them and didn't watch the video. Like, that's how things go. And it's like, it's just,
that's why I changed it. I changed the thumbnail.
More gifted memberships. Appreciate you guys, because we would like to have a decent audience in the YouTube section, because if you've never been on trivia with us,
it depends on audience
participation. Very heavy audience participation. Most of it is about being funny and not about getting the correct answer. So if you don't know the answer and you make a funny joke, you get a point. We're gonna do things like that, and maybe we can get Recusen to sponsor it, and you'll get a gift box of wine for the prize.
Yeah, because we have 2 days to talk to them about that.
I will pay for a bottle of wine for the winner.
We went from a box to a bottle.
Well, I'm not going to pay. I'm not going to get them a box of 3. That's not happening. But I'll pay for a bottle of wine of your picking, so you guys can go on the. That's what we're going to do. The winner of trivia tomorrow night, I am going to buy you a bottle of wine. Or Thursday night, I am going to buy you a bottle from our amazing sponsor, Recuse and Cellars. Recuse and Cellars is your turn, Rob.
You always. I said you the text to read, and they're like, "You're gonna finish it."
Recuse and Cellars is a wonderful vineyard down in Washington.
They are a small family-owned vineyard in Washington State. They're hardcore Catholic, so hardcore that they literally let us say whatever we want, which is dangerous but brave. They're super pro-life, and they're just good guys. Like
they
really
are the greatest wine company on the planet as far as I'm concerned. I mean, they sponsor us. You will get on Thursday night's trivia show, the winner will get a bottle of wine from Recuse and Cellars. I will pay for it out of my pocket. They are amazing to us. What better gift to give to the winner? You guys will have to prove that you're 21 to us. That's about it. But I will make sure you guys get your gift. And man, should we jump right into Carlo?
We definitely can. For anyone listening, since you can't see what's on the screen, go to requisitesellers.com. Use the code BASE25 at checkout for 10% off. And it helps. It helps.
BASED 25, based 25 for your discount.
And it helps us out.
Yeah, a lot. So, okay.
Yes, I know base 25. I don't know why it's 10% off, base 25, whatever. I don't
20
or base 10. I don't know. It doesn't matter.
Just run with it, guys. Oh, it's a 10% off. All right. Yeah, just run with it. Guys, just stop looking for consistency in our show.
We're doing our best.
Yeah, like stop looking for any kind of consistency. Please hit like and subscribe. Okay, let's get into the Carlo Acutis story because my wife and I talked about this. It was funny. I don't usually actually run things past her.
Do you want to hear a funny story related to Carlo that Bobby told me the other day?
Let's hear it.
So for anyone who wasn't part of the episode, I forget when it was, within the last couple of weeks, one of the women that Anthony went on the Italy pilgrimage trip with was diagnosed with like stage 4 cancer shortly after that. Went through a round of chemo and was so like tired and worn out after the first round, she decided to stop treatment, right? And just let whatever happens happen. So a week or two ago, Bobby asked all of us to pray for her. And then on the 27th, I got a message from Bobby that she had gone into the ER due to side effects from the treatment. And they did some tests and scans, and turns out there's no cancer.
Yeah.
Which is amazing. And this was on the 27th. And I told Bobby, well, I'm sure some of the saints whose relics you guys visited in Italy probably had a hand in that. So I forget what he was doing. He started looking up some of the saints you guys visited. And of course, one of them was Carlo.
Of course.
And he misread the article. And the article read that on April 27th, Carlo will be canonized. And he misunderstood, and he thought it was that day that, so he calls me and he was like, oh, it would have been so funny if it was this day and I could be like, Rob, it was Carlo that
Oh man. Yeah, look, the Carlo Acutis thing. The thing is, I've never like read a biography on the kid. I don't know much about him. So I'm kind of agnostic on him, but this article that came out is kind of interesting. Because look, we're going to have to get into a bit of the problems with the modern canonization process, right? So like I typically don't run show ideas by my wife, but she saw the thumbnail.
She was with you in Italy.
And she was with us in Italy. So she saw the thumbnail and she goes, you guys are talking about Carlo Acutis. That's so that's Mary Teresa. She was with me in Italy, and she was the one who
no idea how many photos I got from
me and Mary Teresa to Rob about Carlo Acutis.
They're like, oh, here's me and Mary praying to Carlo for you, Rob. I'm like, ooh.
So we visited Carlo's tomb, like we were around a bunch of his relics and stuff. So my wife saw the thumbnail and she goes, you guys are going to talk about Carlo Acutis that we saw in Italy, and I said, yeah, the thing is, we are talking about this article that came out, which it doesn't necessarily cast doubt. I mean, it does actually, yeah, it casts a little bit of doubt on his sanctity, and it talks about how his mom was kind of the one who formed the cult around him, right? So it comes down to even the rush to get John Paul II canonized, right? The fact that they took
And Mother Teresa,
the fact that they took the devil's advocate out, it kind of look, it doesn't mean that these people aren't in heaven, right? Like, so well, Tara was with us too. What did Tara say? That was a very emotional experience as a mom. Yeah, of course. Like Nicole loved seeing him. It was like a teenage boy, and you have hopes for your kids to become saints and stuff. Like, I'm not gonna trash Carlo. It's Blessed Carlo. But it's the canonization process, what they've done by eliminating even a time period to go by, like maybe wait 50 years to see if anything comes up, because scandal comes and then it kind of casts doubt on the whole process. And it's like,
for the waiting, I don't even know if it's so much that. I mean, that's part of it for sure, but I think it's more to see if there's like an authentic, long-lasting cult of devotion around this person, right? Or if it is really all artificially being produced by very wealthy family members, and by by the media. Because you ask almost anyone who claims they have a devotion to Carlo, well, tell me about him. He had cancer. He loved the Eucharist, and he made a website. And that's literally about all they can say about him, with almost no more detail than that. And it just seems so forced and fake to me.
So the thing is, like I could see a John Paul II having a long-lasting cult, I guess, right? So, but you think back to the saints, right? And we have, like, I mean, you think about the devotion that people have to Saint Therese or Saint Teresa, or even the church fathers, things like that. Like, there's a reason the church encourages devotion to these saints, is because it will help your spiritual life. It'll help you become holy. You're supposed to emulate these people. We consider them raised to the altars that are rushed through a canonization on a kid as a kind of an inspiration to the youth of our day. I mean, there's good sentiment there, right? It's like, oh, let's try to,
but it seems like manufactured sentiment. Like there is a marketing purpose behind it.
Yeah, and it seems like in the article, we will read the article, but it seems like most of his friends didn't even really know he was that religious. And a lot of go ahead.
I was gonna say, but all they remember about him is like some of the kind of immature and pranks and some of the almost like blasphemous jokes that they remember him for.
Yeah, so now he could have had a deep conversion after a certain point, but this is the point of the devil's advocate, right? Like they were holding up Pius X's canonization because he would have a cigarette on occasion. Like he would have one cigarette a day or something.
Yeah, the two things that devil advocate could bring up was he once said low mass in less than 25 minutes so he could go have a cigarette.
Like that makes him not a saint. Where like we look at some of the modern saints and you're just like, it's perplexing a bit, So I mean, look,
I was gonna say I agree with you. Like I don't doubt he's in heaven, because I mean any Catholic who suffers through cancer and makes a good confession and gets last rites, like, yeah, probably in heaven. Like, sure, I'm not doubting that. It's more the prudence of
like
the actual canonization.
Do you want your teenage son to emulate this boy's life? Maybe. I don't know enough about him, and that's kind of the point, right? Like there's all of the information about him that's come out has been, well, let's just read the article. Let's get into it.
I got it here. It's long though, very long.
Do you have a highlights that maybe we can?
Yeah, let me get to the part of
the controversy?
Yeah, like the interviews with his friends. Let me just give me a second here.
Well, so while Rob's looking,
Well, one thing to read. Here's kind of a change in the process. This is a good part.
okay, so Pope John Paul II streamlined saint making by removing the adversarial element altogether and replacing it with a collaborative fact-finding process. When a Newsweek journalist visited the dicastery in the 1980s, he found the department reeling from its sudden efficiency. "We're becoming a factory here," one priest grumbled. He was right. In the past 30 years, the number of saints and blesseds had exploded. This is partly to globalize a canon that is still suspiciously long on Italians, but the zeal with which different popes have made new saints suggests that it is also an attempt to revitalize the church's fading prestige. Each one of the last 3 popes has canonized more than all of his medieval predecessors put together. Francis recently canonized 800 martyrs in one go.
Each one of the last 3 have canonized more than 1,000 years of saints put together.
Yeah, it's like a saint factory at this point, right?
Yes.
So it's man, that it stinks because you guys are sick in the comments.
They better no, guy.
Absolutely awful. Stop it. Knock it off, all of you. Yeah, it kind of casts doubt on the whole thing, and we see the political canonizations also, right? So you see after the council, all of the popes since the council have been canonized because they're trying to canonize the council itself. So like when you start putting doubt in like I think it's such a good point that you said, Rob, about like a lasting devotion to these saints, and it's not to say that Blessed Carlo is not in heaven, but also what came up was somebody claimed that Cardinal Pell's intercession saved their son.
Yes.
Right. So we'll do that after, but let's get to some of the controversial stuff in the articles. So should I go from Federico?
No, go where it says, "Yet the more I investigated."
Yet the more I investigated the life and faith of Carlo, the more intrigued I was by it. Not long before I met I had spoken to Carlo's best friend. He told me that in life he hadn't known him to behave like a very pious boy. In fact, he hadn't even known Carlo was religious. Federico Aldani is a pale, thin, analytical man in his early 30s who lives in Milan and works for an Italian aerospace company. He grew up in the city and at the age of 11 began attending Istituto Marcelline Tomasio, a private school in an expensive neighborhood. He quickly became friends with Carlo, a sunny, extroverted boy who shared his passion for fast cars.
Carlo's start there.
Carlo was known for his love of comedy. Every week on TV, there was an Italian stand-up show, which was his appointment viewing. He liked best the kind of comedy found in The Simpsons, self-referential, absurd, full of subtle changes in tone and register. He burnt DVDs for his friends featuring his favorite episodes. He was easygoing, someone you could get the giggles with. Once, according to Aldani, a school teacher mispronounced some Latin and ended up saying an Italian word, which translates roughly as "stick it up your arse." The boys laughed so hard they were thrown out of the lesson. I mean, I don't think that disqualifies one from sanctity, but he showed different passions to different people, said another. He wasn't someone who forced his interests on other people. He and Carlo would edit together funny videos of his pets. When they were in middle school, the boys would rent the raunchy comedies of the early noughties and take them back to Carlo's to watch. Aldani and Del Vecchio told me they remembered watching Eurotrip, an American Pie-style comedy that begins with Matt Damon singing about his affair with the hero's girlfriend. "I can't believe he's so trusting while I'm right behind her thrusting." The episodic plot later involves a hero accidentally becoming pope. If this was sacrilege, Carlo didn't seem to care. So this is the stuff that typically, it's like, now he gets sick and he offers up all his suffering from cancer, and then he has this devotion to the Eucharist and stuff. But like this stuff in your past, it's not like he led an entire life of devotion to God. It's not like he was called from a young age. I mean, he was raised by parents. Like his mother credits her reversion to him And I think this could be a bit of the mother doting on him so much that she's the one that wanted the cult started around him. So what does it get into some of the stuff the mother did, Rob?
It will. Yeah. But it also
Yeah, he
I
sounds
mean,
like a regular kid. Like he
yeah.
doesn't. I was way worse than this. Like absolutely. Like I was getting into all sorts of trouble as a kid, but I don't expect to be raised to the altars at any point. You know.
Yeah, it will get into like his mother and the people his mother had this journalist interview and stuff like that.
Can we bring that up? Let's
go with this paragraph.
Okay, so Carlo never spoke to Aldani about Jesus. Aldani knew that Carlo's parents were religious and Carlo was culturally Christian. Everyone was culturally Christian, but he had no idea Carlo was an ardent believer. In the course of multiple conversations, Federico went back and forth about whether he had known anything at all. Sometimes he said he had an ambient sense Carlo was religious. At other times, he said he had small clues that he put together later. The hagiographies tell us that faith was the center of Carlo's life. His parents may have seen it, but at his Catholic school, his reserve on the subject was so complete that when Carlo told Aldani he was making a website cataloging miracles, Aldani saw it more as an expression of his friend's passion for computer programming than anything else. That's like it's almost like, did they do any investigating?
Yeah. I don't know.
Man, how old was he when he passed? Was he 15?
15 or 16, somewhere
15
around
or
there.
16, yeah. Yeah, it's just St. Anthony says the patron saint of ordinary kids. It's look, even the way they display him, like in his sweatsuit and stuff, like and I know this is a really sensitive subject. It's like people get really upset when you talk about Blessed Carlo. It's like, but man, if our standards for sainthood really,
like you said, he seems like a fairly normal Catholic teen. I mean, I knew lots of kids that I would like this growing up. I think a lot of people would have described me like this growing up, and not that a kid like that can't become a saint, right? Can't get to heaven, but those that we canonize are supposed to live
extraordinary lives.
Yeah, heroic virtue,
and you're supposed to see something of Jesus Christ in them. That when you see the saint, you say there's something in them that points to Christ. Like there's something in that person that they have like a little bit of the personality trait or a little bit of the virtue of Christ that you don't actually love the saint. What you love is Christ in the saint. That's actually what we're doing in this. And that's
what really bothers me about the whole situation is that no one would know about this kid if it wasn't being shoved down our throats by Catholic media day in and day out since the day he died, more or less, it seems like. Because I remember hearing about him shortly after his death, but it wasn't because people were really all that interested in him or knew anything about him. It's because Catholic media told us this is someone you're supposed to like.
Yeah, it's sad, man. Like, because this kid's probably like, what it actually leads to is then us talking about how he's not a saint, and it's like and it brings doubt to the whole process, and it brings doubt to Catholicism at whole. Like, it really does. It's like if you're a Protestant looking in, you're like, okay, so this kid made a website, like.
Which in this article anyways, he was requested to do. It's not like he went out and decided I'm gonna make this website of my own volition. No, his school requested him to do it. And yet that's one of the three things people know about him is he made a website, but they don't know that it was asked of him.
And now he could have had this beautiful conversion through studying Eucharistic miracles and making the website.
Yeah, very true.
But we generally don't canonize somebody because they had a conversion.
No,
no. You know, like that's not generally why. And it stinks because especially when we went to Italy, a lot of the people we were with were like so excited to go and be around his relics. And
even though they knew nothing about the kid.
well, it's like you see, you know, especially the mothers that were there, you know, they all have teenage sons, and it's like it just stinks that we even have to talk about this. It really does stink. It's like I want the church to raise, especially in our modern day, like we really need examples of extraordinary holiness right now, and that like that live in the modern world, right? So if somebody does pass that lived an extraordinary life with all the distractions we're all facing, like that's really what the church should be seeking right now. So yeah, I don't know if you guys want to continue on with this. I almost feel bad talking about it. It's like
Right, because our goal is not to like cast doubt or like badmouth him, especially because I do believe he's in heaven. Like
yeah.
in the whole whether or not canonizations are infallible, like that is an open question. It is something that can be discussed and debated openly among Catholics. I do personally lean towards canonizations being infallible in the sense like if the church says a person is in heaven, I believe they're in heaven. Like even
I think that's infallible.
Even some of what, and like I said, that's an open question whether or not that's true. But even the popes, which many of us, I'm not going to say doubt are in heaven, but the popes who we don't think should be canonized, like Paul VI, for instance, I don't necessarily doubt he's in heaven because he was a pope. If he had last rites, made confession, and then had a billion Catholics around the world praying for the repose of his soul, yeah, I don't doubt he's in heaven.
But like, I have a hard time believing the man that destroyed the liturgy like that is somebody we should all be looking to for like. So Sister Wilhelmina is a good example of
very good.
You know, she was a cloistered nun when they dug up her remains. She was, I think, at least partially incorrupt.
Yes. Unlike Carlo, for anyone, people, there's a general belief that his remains are incorrupt. The remains that you see, they have been said they are not incorrupt, and they put silicone on them for presentation. So he is not incorrupt.
Yeah, it's just sad. Like I almost feel bad because you don't want to speak ill of the dead, and I'm not speaking ill of the kid. We're speaking about the canonization process and some of the pitfalls of just rushing these canonizations through. It's like, can we trust the church to give us people that we can emulate? Like that's really the point of it. It's like when you read The Little Way, like Saint Therese and her Little Way. The reason she was canonized so quickly is because the Pope, I forgot what Pope it was, when he read her writings, he was like,
Pius X, I think.
Yeah, it's like he read these writings and he was like, this is a way for your average everyday Catholic to live a life of holiness in a way. It was almost like a new way to be like Christ. Because you're giving up these every little daily act you do, you offer up to Christ as a mortification and a sacrifice, and every little thing you do is with joy. Like it was like when the Pope read this, he's like, this is actually perfect for laity who aren't living in a cloister, who aren't off in a monastery somewhere. It's like you as an everyday person can offer every one of your little tribulations to God as a sacrifice, and it will make you holy. So that was like why you would rush a canonization back at that time or something. But to do something like this, like what year did Carlo die?
I want to say it was late 90s.
Was it even that long ago? I thought it was the 2000s.
It might have been 2002, actually, now that I think about it.
I mean, websites and stuff.
2006, really? That late?
Yeah, that's what I was saying. Yeah, dude, it was like internet stuff.
So I was a couple of years older than him.
Yeah, it's look, because I know people get very edgy about this subject, but man, it's like, what were the miracles attributed to him?
I do think it talks about that. Hold on, let me just pull it up real quick.
Yeah, well, that would be an interesting one, because then we're going to talk about Cardinal Pell. Cardinal Pell, their son drowned, and they prayed to Cardinal Pell, and they are claiming that Cardinal Pell's intercession saved their son, which would be a unique, would be interesting, right? Because, man, the guy was falsely accused. I mean, that's very Christ-like. You go to prison for something you didn't commit.
I mean, that's like the definition of a confessor in the sense of a type of saint who suffered for their faith but were not killed for it. And who knows, maybe he is a martyr.
So, like, then Kennedy says that Cardinal Pell denied original sin at one point, right? So, like, these are the things that you gotta be so weary of these days. Like, can somebody be guilty of publicly saying something heretical and then be canonized? And like,
We'll find out with it. Never mind.
well, I'm not saying that. Like, would God attribute a miracle to the person? Like, this stuff just casts doubt in anybody looking to convert, man. It's really, that's what worries me the most, because when we go through our tradition and like, it's like, okay, you want to know if the faith is true? Show me your saints. Because if you go to, there's no Protestant saints, and it's not because they don't have a canonization process. There's not Protestants who are living extraordinary virtuous lives to the point where they perform supernatural miracles because of their holiness, right? Like you could be so much like Christ that miracles happen around you.
Mm-hmm.
Like you're able to defy the laws of nature at certain points because you are so much like Christ. Like where's the next Padre Pio?
I don't know,
bilocating and things like that, And I'm not saying all the saints have to have these grand miracles around them, but it's an indicator of this person has done something extraordinary. It's like God's way of co-signing it almost. So let's bring up the Cardinal Pell story.
I do have the miracles if you wanted to hear.
Oh yeah, let's hear the miracles.
So the first miracle was in 2013 in Brazil. It involved a child that had a birth defect where basically he had digestive issues, couldn't keep food down, and by the age of 4 weighed only 20 pounds. Then in 2013, a priest obtained a relic of Carlo, a piece of his clothing, encouraged people to organize a prayer service and encourage people to seek Carlo's intercession. So this child was brought there, touched a picture of Acutis, and expressed a simple wish saying, "I wish I could stop vomiting so much." Then he went home and started eating solid food without vomiting. And then subsequent medical examinations confirmed that the problem with his pancreas was fully healed. A recovery the doctors couldn't really explain. And that was attributed to Carlo in 2020. Now that prayer service that the healing occurred at did occur on the feast day of Our Lady of Aparecida, which is of course a Marian feast day in Brazil.
So Michael's saying we know nothing about Carlo and don't think he should be canonized. Protestant level research. So that's kind of what we're going through in the article, Michael. Have you
not been watching?
It seems like the church didn't do its due diligence, and that's what we're worried about. And we're not saying
or if they did, they're not sharing any of it with anyone.
Yeah,
the second,
careful here. It's not.
Yeah. The second miracle happened in 2022. It involved a woman who fell off her bicycle, suffered a severe head injury, resulting in a hemorrhage. She underwent emergency surgery, including the removal of part of her occipital bone to reduce pressure on the brain. But doctors gave her a low chance of survival. 6 days later, her mother made a pilgrimage to Acutis' tomb in Assisi, where she prayed for her daughter's recovery. On that day, her daughter began breathing independently. The next day, she regained movement in her arms and started speaking again. And then, 10 days later, the hemorrhage had completely resolved, and she ended up making a full recovery. Nowhere in there, though, does it say that the doctors couldn't explain that. As a matter of fact, I've heard from a priest that we both know who is well versed in in health, that's not miraculous, really.
Yeah, it's kind of common. I will say this. I asked Carlo's intercession at his tomb for something, and I said, if you grant me this, I will promote your cause. And like, I will go out and tell people that Carlo Acutis is a saint. I'm not saying it didn't happen, but that's not, I'm not saying that's proof of anything. I'm just saying, like, I would be the first one defending him. You know, it's just, I don't know. I just, it just kind of stinks that, first off, Cardinal Pell will never be made a saint, though. But this one is interesting. So, the parents of a toddler who miraculously survived near drowning in the family swimming pool have attributed his recovery to the intercession of the deceased Australian Cardinal George Pell. Caitlin and Wesley Robinson, who are expecting their 9th child, were preparing the family to visit relatives after Sunday Mass when Wesley, the father, realized that their 14-month-old son Vincent was missing. Vincent's father found him at the bottom of the family spa attached to their backyard swimming pool. The toddler arrived at the hospital without a pulse, and after 52 minutes of resuscitation was placed on life support. Shortly after the accident, the couple began praying to the late Cardinal Pell for a miracle. The couple had met late Archbishop of Sydney when he visited Arizona in 2021 and had been hugely impressed by him. They also sought the intercession of Blessed Conchita, a Mexican mother of 9 whose youngest son died of drowning. On Ash Wednesday, a novena began asking the intercession of Blessed Father Michael McGivney, the 19th century founder of the Knights of Columbus. By the 9th day, Vincent was discharged in full health. Now, so that's not necessarily Cardinal Pell.
Right. The fact, I mean, yeah.
Like, that's not necessarily Cardinal Pell. I mean, I would think, honestly, praying to Blessed Conchita, a Mexican mother of 9 whose youngest son died of drowning, I would think
or having him discharged from the hospital on the last day of the novena to Blessed, Father McGivney.
Yeah. And there's been miracles attributed to Father McGivney before. This is kind of ridiculous. Venerable Pope Pius XII wasn't canonized for the type of BS cited in that article. Why propagate that nonsense?
I'm not sure what the comment is really saying.
I think they're saying why propagate. Yeah, like Pius XII. I think honestly, Pius XII wasn't canonized because of his proximity to World War II and the accusations around him.
Yeah,
which I don't believe are true at all. I believe that's why. I think it would have been too controversial and another political reason for not canonizing him. But I think Pius XII, I think was a saint. I really do. I think he did some extraordinary acts during World War II, even.
Mm-hmm.
But it's just such a fraught subject and so much propaganda around that subject that it's hard to, it's hard to play around with something like that. So, guys, look, just doing the best we can with this. We're just trying to take an honest look at it. We're not trying to besmirch.
I think it's interesting how you have a figure like Simon of Trent, who was made a blessed, was never canonized, and was actually removed from the Roman martyrology. I forget when exactly, but a child who was more or less martyred for the faith is removed due to sensitivity to certain issues. And then you have someone like Carlo pushed by every arm of the Vatican and Catholic media.
It was so interesting
for making
the way
a
that
website,
happened, right? It was like every single Catholic, but I guess on their part, it's like, oh, it's an excitement for a young saint, a modern saint, I guess. But it did seem kind of
organized and
astroturfed. It just seemed that way, So all right, we will move on from the subject. I hope you guys aren't angry that we delved into it a bit. It's just one of those things you kind of got to talk about. You want to do the guy trashing me
now, or I thought you wanted to do that in locals?
Well, it does have a swear word in it.
I did attempt to bleep it out. I think you can kind of hear the swear word behind the bleep. So just a forewarn anyone, if you have kids listening.
Yeah, because on
called a
locals,
swear word.
I want to do the chosen thing on locals because we're going to play video content that will get copyrighted for over here.
Oh, good point. Good point.
So I'd rather do this on this end. So, all right, now who are these guys, Rob?
Okay, so this is funny. So one of the YouTube channels that I enjoy watching, it's called the Lore Lodge. They're a channel that started off kind of concentrating just on like weird folktale and lore, you know, especially North American stuff like the Wendigo and Bigfoot and stuff. But they got kind of into that, led into doing cases from what's called Missing 411, which started off as like this collection of missing people in like the national parks, but kind of morphed into people thinking Bigfoot is kidnapping people.
Yeah.
And these guys, they started realizing like, this is all kind of BS, and many of these cases can be explained. But anyway, so they do a lot of like missing person cases and have started to morph into kind of like true crime and stuff like that. But
I've heard this a lot. Is this true that the host is a
Freemason? So the host is a Freemason, which is challenging at times, but it's a channel I enjoy watching, right? So so I was listening to their stream from yesterday or whatever today at work this afternoon, and all of a sudden out of nowhere I hear our channel name get thrown out, and it was I almost spit water out laughing.
All right, so listen, we're gonna give you guys a kids warning. If you have kids, you might hear the S word. Like he says the S word. Now we did that. We released that clip where you and I talked about that sensitive subject of us and our fight behind the scenes, and that was meant for locals. That wasn't meant for YouTube. So I said the S word several times in it, and you got a phone call about my language, and then my mom called me, and she goes, first off, she's like, "Are you and Rob okay?" I'm like, "Yeah." Why?
Yeah, this was 18 months ago.
she thought it was a new thing. She's like, "Are you guys okay? You guys almost ended the show." She goes, "Anthony, I have to talk to you about your language, honey. You can't be cursing like that."
So what's funny is that I think it was the day before that I got a call from one of my like lifelong friends who has been on trivia with us. And he's like, first off, you guys kind of swore a lot of my kids were listening. I'm like, okay, fair.
It wasn't
right.
Yeah. So like the excuse is that was really meant to be behind a paywall, and we were kind of spilling our guts. It was a bit of a therapy session. It wasn't
planned. We had no idea we were going to talk about that.
Absolutely.
So like after we did, we're like, that's a good convo to share.
And I hadn't like thought about it was just it was a lot of emotion charged. So if you guys didn't watch that clip, we did put it out on YouTube, but the curses weren't.
For a second, I thought this was a your mom joke.
No, my mom doesn't pay for locals. My mom saw the clip when we put it on YouTube, but she didn't know like it wasn't meant to be on YouTube originally. It was meant to be behind the paywall, just for like I told another story about I told a little bit about my struggle with addiction at a point in my life, and we were going to release that too. But
a Filipino.
Just FYI, I wear my AB t-shirt for walks and have my AB coffee mug. People never heard of you from Manila, dude. We have a lot of international viewers. But so I shared something very personal. So we were going to release that clip, and I said, Rob, let me just ask Nicole if she's okay with me sharing that. And then like a bunch of stuff happened with people's personal lives that we'll talk about on Locals tonight, but like other things happen about, and it's like anytime you share something personal, people use it to stab you with it. So I'm like, let's just keep that on Local. Like I do share an awful lot more on Locals than I do on here, and it's got to kind of stay that way because throwing that stuff out to the public, it winds up coming back to bite you. So if you guys want the personal stuff, you gotta pay for Locals. I don't have to tell you.
And then promise not to share it outside.
Well, tonight's show, you guys better not share. I'll tell you right now. Super chat for Nick's Flonase. Texas Pollen is for real. All right, let's play this kid trashing me.
I gotta tell you, this made my day so
I can't wait. That's the thing. So Rob listens to this show, and to hear what the kid says, like when Rob sent me the clip, I burst out laughing so hard. It's like,
So
if you guys didn't see it on Twitter, wait till you hear this.
So as soon as I saw it, I messaged him on Twitter. I'm like, I saw the shout out yesterday. He's like, I'm sorry, but I did talk nice about you. I'm like, no, it was awesome. Don't apologize.
So listen to the whole clip because he says something about me and then he trashes somebody else.
Okay, you want me to do the longer one?
Just play the long. Look, there's two S bombs in it. Nothing that bad, but he does say, he says the S word twice. So if you guys don't want to hear that, or if you have kids around, just hide them. I don't know what to tell you guys. We're all adults here, I think.
Driving me nuts. There's this one guy, and it frustrates me because I really like the producer of the show, but I can't stand the host of the show.
As soon as he did that, I'm like,
no. Don't talk over it, because as soon as I heard it, I'm like, everybody freaking likes Rob at first. They don't know. They have no idea.
I'll restart it here, and I won't talk over it.
Driving me nuts. There's this one guy, and it frustrates me because I really like the producer of the show, but I can't stand the host of the show. Show's Avoiding Babylon. The host, Anthony, just constantly says the absolute dumbest shit I've ever seen.
Like what?
Like, for example, one of his tweets was that the one criminal on the cross who was saved because Mary prayed for him. And I'm like, no, it's because God himself was next to him and said, you're good. That's why. It had nothing to do with Mary.
Is that direct from the Bible?
Yeah.
So how?
I don't know if he's just trying to piss Protestants off, or if he genuinely believes that, or what, but it's just constant with him.
It's both.
And then he'll take like this dumbass named Lizzie, who goes by Farming in Jesus, who seems like she has the theological education of somebody from North Sentinel Island, and just says dumb heretical bullshit constantly.
So that's
and then they just take her and they're like, see.
So now, so I posted that clip on Twitter, and Lizzie saw it, and she went nuts. Who is this guy? He's accusing me of heresy. Point out my heresy. Blah, 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 blah. Like, just went on and on and on. So the guy actually messaged me. He goes, Anthony, I apologize. I didn't mean it. Lizzie is far more annoying than you are. Honestly, dude, I said to Rob, like, for me to get upset that somebody got upset because I posted a tweet to upset people would be just preposterous, right? Like, I'm posting things to upset people, and then to be upset because they got upset would be ridiculous. So when somebody says something like that, at least he added the context of that tweet. Like, I didn't know if he actually watched, because he said Avoiding Babylon podcast. So I didn't know if, like, he thought I said dumb things on here, which is drastically different than my tweets, right?
Yes,
like,
you are different on, well, generally speaking, you're different on here than your tweets.
So yeah, I think it was hilarious. I have no hate towards the guy. I don't care. But I was thinking, maybe it's just like everybody that watched this segment should go annoy the crap out of the kid. I'm just maybe.
Don't be mean. But
no, not be mean. I'm just saying, maybe.
You know, so what's funny? So they have a few channels, and one of them is called the Weird Bible Podcast. I think they should get you on for the Weird Bible Podcast to talk about some things.
I would do that.
I think you'd actually be good on it. I've never watched it because, like, I like them talking about weird missing person cases, not about their Protestant interpretation of the Bible.
It sounds like he's like, first off, he said he was Protestant. He did say he was Protestant. It sounds like he might be like looking deeper into things and maybe not staying a Freemason. I don't know. I don't want to make assumptions.
That's one of the things that, like, kind of keeps me like interacting with them, because, like I said, they started off their channel, about these weird legends and stuff in Bigfoot. And then when they actually looked into it, they realized, no, this is all BS. And now they're kind of working against that. So, like, I've seen him change his mind about things. Yeah. And I've also seen him go from, he was raised Methodist, and being very Methodist, but then he realized like there's things wrong with that, and he's looking into the more apostolic churches. He looked into Eastern Orthodoxy for a while, and now he's looking into Anglo Catholicism. So like I actually put him in touch with Calvin Robinson to
Yeah, listen, you don't know where somebody's going to end up. You really don't.
right.
I had a Protestant on Twitter question me about why, because I wrote a tweet saying I credit Mary with saving me, right? Or something along those lines, like Mary saved my soul. And they asked me about it, but they were sincere in questioning me. Like it wasn't, they were like, look, I just heard that Protestants removed 7 books from the Bible, and I'm kind of perplexed by this. Like, what do you mean by this? And they were honest about it. So I kind of just explained it like, look, did you ever hear a Protestant say, hey, we're in the business of saving souls? Like a Protestant will say, like, we're about the business of evangelization. We're out here saving souls, something like that, right? Now, something happened in my life where I credit Our Lady with bringing me to her son. So that's kind of how I explained it to him. And he was like, that actually makes perfect sense. So as crazy as these ridiculous tweets sound, and oftentimes they are, there are times where somebody sees them and like makes them go, wait a minute, can you explain this to me?
Well, it's well, 2 things. Number one, I still hate that you were right about that tweet. But like, so when he went after you on Twitter for that tweet.
Yeah.
And I sent him the quote from Saint Peter Damian to be like, this quote did happen before the schism with the Orthodox. Like,
Yeah.
so, maybe you actually want to maybe consider what Anthony said a little bit more. But what was I going to say? It's like that tweet that Eric Salmons put out recently, more or less saying like, everyone's different. You can't expect like a single apologetic method to work for everyone. Everyone has a different method that's going to work for them. And sometimes that means Anthony's stupid trolling is going to be what actually gets people.
It's so weird how God works though. Look, there are people whose hearts are hardened, right? And no matter what you say to them, you could give them the most amazing apologetic imaginable and it doesn't shift them. But then there's somebody who has an open heart, and God will use anything to just strike a chord with them, which this one guy, it happened to be, he heard that the Protestants removed 7 books. Now, how many times are Protestants and Catholics fighting over 66 books versus 73 books? And you don't know if it was something obnoxious somebody said, but whatever it was, my obnoxious tweet then led him to ask me a question. Now the guy's following me. And I've had a lot of people send me DMs. A lot of Protestants send me DMs and ask me about things deeper. And like, if anybody ever does that, I'll always spend the time to talk to them.
There was something I saw on Twitter this last week was someone, I think his name's Ryan, I forget his name, but he was actually tweeting how he's coming into the church on Easter at the Easter Vigil. And it all started when Bree Solstad on Twitter wrote a tweet about Mary being the mother of God. And this Protestant at the time responded, Mary is the mother of Jesus, not the mother of God. And she tweeted something along the lines like, you're a Nestorian heretic.
Yeah.
And that actually got him to look into Nestorianism, look into Mariology and Christology. And he's literally coming into the church a year later because of that, because of being
that's
called a heretic.
That's actually one of the greatest, like tripping a Protestant who doesn't call Mary the mother of God. It's one of the easiest ways to get them to question what they believe, because it's like, look, if Jesus is God and Mary is his mother, then Mary is the mother of God. Now, you can't separate Christ's divinity from his human nature and his divine nature. You can't separate them. So he's one person, and you get into the hypostatic union with people a little bit. And it's a good way to break them out of their conditioning.
It forces them to consider like actual philosophy and logic and reason, and not just taking Bible verses out of context.
It's there is, and also so like Matt when Bree calls people heretics, it's cool, but when I do it, it's a hot take, and I'm in trouble at work again.
Mrs. C is right here too. You might get into an argument with the Protestant or modernist or whoever on Twitter, and you got to remember like that you probably will not move that person, but you don't know who's reading those tweets.
Yeah. The idea that everybody comes into the church through the same apologetic method is kind of the thing we've been challenging for a while now, right? And it starts with conversation with Kyle Whittington where he's like, I can't tell you how many people in Trent's comments say Taylor Marshall almost led them out of the church and they became sedevacantists. But then I could show you 1,000 comments that say the opposite. And it's like, if it wasn't for Taylor Marshall, I'd have left the church. Like that happened to me. It was a show with Taylor, Tim Gordon, and Patrick Coffin talking about the problems in the church. And I was like, finally, somebody talking. I'm not crazy. Like, it's nice to, some people need to hear they're not nuts for seeing what they're seeing. Then Matt put out a video today talking about, it was just a clip of somebody fired a question at him. And he was like, talking about like discussing other creators. And he's like, if you want to grow your YouTube channel fast, here's the trick. Drama. And he's not wrong. I mean, that is a good trick to grow your channel. You want, if you get a channel and you discuss somebody else, you're going to get clicks. People want to hear the drama. It's just the way it is. But I do think that there's also, it's like, okay, well, do you hold Trent to that standard when he criticizes Nick Fuentes? Do you hold Trent to that standard when he criticizes Tim Gordon?
Or any creationist?
Yeah, that like some of these discussions have to be had, right? And there's no other way to do it. I think the show where we had Mike Pantile on, yes, we use that picture as a backdrop for that conversation, but I think that was a freaking really good conversation, man. Like I don't think we slandered anybody. I don't think we, demeaned anybody's character. It got a lot of clicks because we had that picture up and people thought we were going to talk about them, but it's just the nature of this beast, right? Does Frad forget he brought on Salza to criticize the SSPX? He was very, he said, I've fallen prey to this. I pray that I never fall prey to it again. Like he wasn't calling anybody specifically out. I think he was referencing us, but this
mostly due to, because I know he had a private conversation.
Right. Because I only think that because like I'm not that big of a narcissist where I think everything's about me. It's more because he messaged me. I mean, I am, but he messaged me. I stink. I'm the worst. So okay, that we're gonna save that.
Yeah, we'll save that one for locals
because we have to have that conversation on the other side because I don't want it to be public. Man, that's a look. I want to hit that super chat right now, but I don't think it's appropriate public conversation. So we're gonna have to do it on the other side.
Yeah.
And I want to do it delicately too because it kind of leads into that conversation about that woman. Maybe we could do that here. And just have a discussion about women working in general and then lead it off into the other side. I mean, we're at an hour. I told Rob we get off in an hour and a half tonight. It doesn't seem like that's happening. You want to jump to the other side?
We might as well. It's been an hour.
Yeah, it's been an hour. All right, we're gonna do some good stuff on the other side. We're gonna get into stuff that we can't talk about over here. If you guys are not locals members, you need to join locals. The best way to support us is where we have more fun than over here. We're a little more free to discuss things.
We also have a big local show this weekend.
Oh, that's right. Father Maudsley Saturday. That is something I definitely cannot do anywhere but locals. And it's going to be, listen to me, this is going to be a very deep conversation. Like we are going to talk about like the theological significance of Catholics and Jews and their relationship and what that means. Now, Father Maudsley's put out some really intense videos. I want to talk to him a little bit about that, but that's not really what I want to talk to him about. I want to get into just like what's going on in the world right now theologically. And I think he's probably the perfect person to have that conversation with. I think people that just write somebody off because they have scary opinions, you're going to miss out on some valuable stuff if you just don't talk to somebody because they're too controversial. I'm going to talk to Father Maudsley Saturday. I'm hoping Rob comes. He is still. I think you're going to be there, right?
I plan on being there. Yes.
Yeah. So, yeah, if you guys are not locals members, you will get a very good show on
It's going to
Saturday.
be at 10 a.m. Eastern.
No, 9 a.m. Eastern.
9 a.m. Eastern.
9 a.m. Eastern. It's going to be 1 p.m. GMT time. So I think that puts me at 9 a.m. Eastern, right? I think they're 4 or 5 hours ahead.
They're 5 hours ahead of me right now. So 4 hours ahead of you. So that's 9.
9 a.m. Eastern on locals. I mean, you'll be able to watch it anytime if you're not up for the live show.
And
but
we will choose as many carefully carefully
yeah, guys, put
curated clips for it.
Right. Like, oh, yeah. Oh, publicly. Yeah, we will put curated clips out on X and YouTube. But even your questions, like, make sure they're like sophisticated questions, because I want to handle this right, but I want to get to the meat and substance of it. So that'll be Saturday. Join us over on Locals Now, and we'll get into some of the women's stuff. And I want to discuss The Chosen, because it kind of goes into this. And the Jesus they're presenting in The Chosen is kind of the Jesus we were talking about with Mike Pantile, where he's like the Protestant woman, acceptable version of him. Anniversary gift, buy something pretty for Rob.
No, it's that he's making me do 4 streams this week.
Yeah, that's a lot, Rob. Rob did one last night.
Not to mention my daily Lenten things.
I did. Oh my gosh, man. I've done 3 shows in a week, and it kills me. My heart goes out to you, man. Yo, Rob, shout out to you, Rob. You put a lot into this channel, man. Especially those Lenten meditations. Thank you so much. I know it's a lot of work and it's not a lot of payoff, but you're very much appreciated.
It's been a long but good 3 years. I can't say I regret it at all, honestly.
Which
I will never say again, by the way.
My wife listens to every one of those, Rob. She texts me something about them every day. Like she learns a lot from you and stuff. It's like it's really good. So all right, let's move on, everybody. We will see you on Thursday for the members only show. Come play trivia with us, the final trivia episode on Avoiding Babylon. Come meet the new kids that we're passing the show on to. Everybody
going to be in
subscribe.
Locals.
We're going to do that on Locals. I want to play the 3 comparisons of the scene of Jesus in the temple. So I have 3 comparisons of Jesus in the temple that I want you guys to see the difference in how Jesus approaches the Pharisees and the Chosen. There are some beautiful scenes in it, but the way he approaches the Pharisees, it's like really unnerving to me. So we're going to go over there and do that. All right, take us out, Rob.